to miss today. She was just originally going to kind of like interview us and talk about follow up and the importance of it, some good practices for it. But she let us know at the last minute she wouldn't be able to make it. So as soon as John gets in here, we'll ask him and interview John Randall about his follow up. Busy week?
Not busy only. Got one of the contract in other counties. I do Tuscaloosa County that one. Got two in St. Clair, had two in Mobile, closed one there. Got two in Jefferson. Two in St. Clair, I was actually showing new construction. Of course, somebody else pulled up and they didn't have an agent. And those two there. My mind boggling that when I showed another one, my other one. I thought it was a good day.
Yeah. What's up? What's up, buddy? I guess we're just going to do it kind of more like it is. You just want to sit in that chair because we got people here, so then we'll see some camera. Oh, yeah. Yeah, what's up, buddy? But I think originally Delana was going to ask us kind of questions, just have us kind of talk about follow up and all that, so she could make it. So she sent me some questions, and the one and only John Randall can help us answer some of those. So, what is your process as far as, like, say I've connected with a lead, okay, and they're not ready to buy it? And we'll each answer. So you give yours. I'll go first. I spoke with somebody today, actually, this morning right before I walked in. And so she's got to work on her credit a little bit, but the lender said that as soon as June she'll be ready to buy for what she's looking for. Okay. So we had a nice long conversation, a little bit about what she's looking for, but as far as that goes, so when you get these leads, you make sure to take all the notes that you can. But also, I went ahead and reached out to the lender too. She's actually talking to Jordan, so I know him, so that works out well. And he agreed she'd be ready by June. So I went over kind of the importance of going ahead and start to look, because she may be ready to purchase in June, but we need to be looking before that, because it can take anywhere from 60 to 90 days. So we kind of came up with a game plan, and so when I get a lead, right, I put my notes in, and then I set to-dos. Okay, so with her, she's not going to be ready till June, but I told her about April. We really need to kind of sit down and come up with a good, strong game plan for finding a house, because it may be May or June before we find the right house. But I'd like to be able to, she's in a hurry, so as soon as we get it, but get the chance, we'd like to put an offer in on a house. So I set it to do for a month from now. It's really just calling, talking, seeing how things are going. So that'll put us in mid-February. Again, mid-March, at the beginning of April, I'm gonna sit down with her and meet with her, and we'll talk about exactly what she's looking for, see if anything's changed. So that's usually what I do. How do you approach it?
My biggest thing is it's all about something like that. My biggest thing is it's all about creating value and setting an expectation. My value is and painting a picture. So let's just think through it. I'd go, all right, let me paint a picture on how the next few months are going to be. And I might say, all right, so we're going to learn what you want in a house. That's the first step. Then I'm going to help you get qualified to be able to buy a home. And then we're going to stay connected until it's time. And what my goal in the whole conversation is for that person to hang the phone up and go, all right, John's got it. There's nothing I need to do. There's not a single phone call I need to make until he's kind of got it. There's no other sign in the yard that I need to call, because John's my guy. So I set expectations, I paint a picture. And what that looks like is, hey, look, it sounds like from our conversation, you're ready to purchase in March or April, whatever the date is. So here's what I'm going to do to start. One of my favorite things when you're prepping to buy a home is to start with, like, I kind of want to control it a little bit. And I go, who's your buddy that's a banker, a lender? And 9 out of 10 times they go, I don't have a really close friend. Because I set it up that way. I don't say, who do you bank with? I want to kind of go, well, now that I've learned a little bit about what you're looking for, I tell you what, a good lender for you might be so and so. All right, I'm going to hang the phone up, call that lender for you. Does that sound good? Okay, great. I'm going to tell them all about you. And then I'm going to have them call you. Now, here's their phone number. Please call them. That won't happen. I got to control the whole situation so then that way I'm their guy. And then I'm going to do a lot what Jonathan does after we hang the phone up. I'm going to set my own reminders and set my own to-dos. They're not buying until, let's just say, July. Well, in a couple weeks, I'm going to set a reminder to say, John, text so-and-so, text the buyer just to check in about life. Hey, did you see that new recruit we got from Alabama or something interesting? And so that way they
John Randall.
they are engaged.
That's who that is. You heard of John Randall, haven't you?
What?
Have you heard of John Randall?
Nice to meet you.
So anyway, I set expectations. I get them up with a lender.
In a meeting at the office.
But does that make sense? Yep. And then I control it all the way through. And then I've got little silly to do. Just say, send a text about life, maybe whatever. And one thing, depending on the person, I might show them one house in the next few days, just to get in front of them. A lot of times they don't want to come here in a fancy office and get all formal. They might want to go see the one house they called me about because they want to see it. It's fun. Well, let's go do our whole buyer consultation there. Does that make sense? So then at the end of the day, I hung the phone up. We got a plan. They're talking to their lender. Then I'm going to follow up the lender, see what expectations are. Okay, great. I'm going to show them one house and then just a meet and greet with them, and then we're done. And now we're doing little things along the way to each other.
So the little things are just to stay top of mind, right? Just to remind them, hey, I'm your guy.
Yeah.
So how do you keep up with all that? Like all these little to-dos that you just talked about, your plan and your notes, how do you keep up with that?
So you can do it a whole different ways. Everybody has their own system. Before we used Boomtown, I used to just set my own reminders on my phone. And I have every person in my phone that's a buyer. This is my system. They have the word prospect after their name in my calendar or in my phone. So anyway, I just set my own calendar. This is before I used Boomtown. So anybody who doesn't use Boomtown, I just set it. As soon as I hang the phone up, I had an Excel sheet and I wrote my name down, their name down, a number, and my notes. And then I set my own to-do. And then in my phone calendar, it just pops up. You know, I had this conversation and then I forget about it. But 3 weeks from now, it says, check notes from Cindy Lou, who you spoke to. Make the next to-do, which is, I might set this today, 4 or 3 weeks, send this exact text message. Hey, Cindy, great talking with you a few weeks back. How's everything going with your new job you got? Whatever it may be. So Boomtown's really easy because I can do it in a really big system. But if you don't have that, I think a spreadsheet, Excel sheet, good to go.
So what's the longest you followed up with
6 years, probably. But it's simple. It sounds like, oh gosh, that's ridiculous. But some of them are every 6 months, I might send a fun text. And literally, it takes me 3 seconds to do because the 6 months before, I wrote the text. And it would be like, hey, Johnny, what's your next project on your house? How's everything going? And or if he's a big Alabama fan, I'll have a to-do around the national championship. And I go, can you believe that game last night? And it's just all the way through.
So what kind of notes do you usually take? Delana talks about how, so John gets pretty detailed with his notes. He'll remember like the pets' names and things like that. So, as far as like, so if you don't have Boomtown and you did a spreadsheet, how detailed would you get with those notes?
It depends on the prospect. I mean, if they're super hot, they're gonna get more details. If they're a long person, like let's say I talked to them today and they're gonna lease through December, my notes are gonna get more detailed as I get to October. But between now and then, I wanna at least know what they do for a living and kind of what their interests are. I ask everybody, I said, look, what are your must-haves in a house? Like, John, don't even send it to me if it doesn't have this. That way, I've got some important notes, and I'm not just sending a pretty weak next communication to them. Hey man, thought of you today. How's everything going? Or, hey man, take a look at these lists of homes, and I'm not really winning because I didn't ask what are your must-haves. And if I don't say, don't even send me the house if it doesn't have this, then I'm just a robot, you know. And so my notes will get better and better as I get closer and closer. But I do ask them what's important to them and a little bit about their life, just so that it can help me with my. If it's a 6-year client, which those aren't often. If it's a year client, what are their interests? And like Jason Abram does this like every once a year with us, and he's the one that kind of got me clicked. And it's like, man, okay, he is a big Alabama volleyball fan. I'm going to try to give him something interesting to whatever that is, to where I want to be like his buddy for my little plays if he's a year or longer.
So how often do you talk to somebody or reach out to somebody if they're a legit year away from buying? How often do you reach out to them?
I gauge it to their response, their responses, but if I set expectations like the first question we talked about, then they know about when I'm going to call. Like one of the best things I think you can have on your computer is every phone call, you need to identify what the next action item is with your person before you hang the phone up. Hey man, it sounds like you're in a lease through July. Well, here's our game plan. Here's our next thing we're going to do. And then if you say that out loud, they don't do anything else. They just wait. And it's really nice. But if I just say, all right, man, well, have a good day, then there's no meat there. But if I go, hey man, now that we have a chance to check in, I know we just talked about volleyball today, but I tell you what, because he's going to ask me about real estate after I talk about volleyball. I'm not going to talk about it until he brings it up. It sounds like our next step is this. I'll give you a call next month. But in a year long, it's probably every month and a half, I send him like a quick little text.
4 or 5 times.
Yeah. And then when I get closer and closer, it's a phone call. But there's no reason to spend all day calling year from now clients. But there's absolutely a reason to send a 1-sentence text. But it is it's key to just kind of have that sticky note on your monitor. Before hanging up the phone, figure out what the next action item is and say it out loud.
Yep. Okay, so you get a lead. You get a lead. Well, I was going to ask this question because it's a good one. So you get a lead. Somebody says, hey, my cousin's looking to buy a house. Okay, they give you the number. You call them, they don't answer. How many times do you reach out to that person before you say, all right, maybe they're not a real lead? How many times do you, like, what is your process there as far as, like, what are the steps you take? How many times do you reach out before you say, you know what, maybe they're not?
In my notes, I try to say what I did. I left Blaine a voicemail. Well, the next time I call him, I'm not going to leave Blaine a voicemail if he didn't call me back. Why is Blaine going to leave why am I gonna leave 3, 4 voicemails? I'm done. So one of my favorite things, speaking of voicemails, after you leave your voicemail, if you didn't win on the message, you can hit pound or you can hit 3. Pound, I think, is the number. You hit pound and you can redo it. Y'all ever done that?
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can hit,
I'm the only one that did that.
you can hit pound and then you can listen to it and change it. And I'm thinking, man, I don't want a voicemail that says, hey, Jonathan, it's John Reynolds. Hey, man, I just checking in with you. Hope you're doing well. Give me a call when you can. You know, one of my favorite things, I tell this story sometimes, when it was my chance to buy my first car outside of like the car my dad got when I was 16. It was my chance to buy a car. And I told the dealer, I said, hey man, I've thought about this for years. I want a Eddie Bauer brown Explorer with tan interior. Don't call me unless it passes. I went to 3 dealerships. And one guy called me and said, hey man, John, give me a call when you can. Just want to follow up. Next guy kind of said the same thing. One guy goes, hey man, I found your truck. Call me. Well, I called him in like 5 seconds. And he goes, hey man, I got this great truck. It's got 16,000 miles on it. Gosh, I was looking for 80,000 miles on it. And we get to the whole thing. He goes, it's white exterior, black interior. And I was like, good grief, you know, I didn't want that. But I hit it off with him. We talked about life for 5 minutes. And then all of a sudden, he is the person I bought a car from because he set expectations and I didn't call anybody else. And it was that guy. But what he did is he had a creative voicemail. And my voicemails are, I'm trying to get them to kind of go, I'm going to call that guy. I'm not saying I found your truck, I found your house. I'm going to say, hey man, I thought about you today because there was a house that I heard that's coming on the market. If you get a second, call. And if I didn't win it, I hit pound and I'd redo it or whatever. But I'm trying to get them to call me back. It could be something different. But you might say, John, does that work every time? You know, I'll change it up depending on the prospect. And if they call me back and I have a house, great. If I don't, I go, well, now that we had a chance to talk, actually, no, that one won't work because it doesn't have this. Now that I know your plan, tell me again, what's your must-have? All right, I'm in. Anyway, I get the communication going back and forth.
Okay. That's great. I think on average, they said you have to reach out to somebody about 7 times before you actually get them and get them to start talking about what they've got.
I got long-winded, but what I was trying to say is I either leave a voicemail, I send a text, I send an email, and I try to go in those cycles and go different each time until I figure out which one they like to do.
Maybe even call from a different number.
I'll call from the office number. Not, you know, whatever.
And I
If
know,
they answer, I'll go, hey man, I'm calling from a different line. This is John.
and I know sometimes we'll get leads that are super hot. It's like, hey, you can buy very soon. And then all of a sudden they kind of fall off and they disappear. And that's when I start, for my emails and my texts, if they're not answering the phone, I end up with questions. So, you know, they feel like they've got to respond, right? I give them some kind of great information. Hey, I know you want to be in Belvedere, right? I'm going to see one with somebody in our office today, actually. How many bedrooms did you say you needed? So now I've got their attention, but I need them to respond. So you got to get them talking again sometimes.
Every text needs to have a question. Every single one. Because I want them to be engaged. If they don't, then I'm just, like, I don't want to send a link to a house and go, hey man, let me know what you think. I said, hey, I thought of you today, saw this. Is this more your style? Or what do you think of this one? I got to have something.
Yeah, this one has a bonus rating. Is that something you need? Yeah. This one's got a big fenced-in yard. Is it too big? Yeah, we have to remember too sometimes that they're just as busy as we are. So trying at different times, and even trying from different phone numbers helps.
There's a slight echo, guys.
What's that?
There's a slight echo in the audio.
Oh, really? I don't know how to fix that.
Oh, I can hear you, but we're just listening really, really hard.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I don't know if we know how to fix that.
Somebody in here could-
How do you, like, if you get a lead, right, so you call, and you do everything you just said. But that's, and I always tell them, hey, call me with any questions, whatever you need from this point on, call me and I've got an answer for it or I can find it. However, they're out on Sunday looking at houses and they see a sign.
Yeah.
And they're calling. How do you keep, well, you can't keep all of them because they're all gonna go out and see houses. How do you keep them in the loop from calling a sign or just, how do you tell them on that initial end, hey, if you need anything, call me, other than, I don't wanna say, hey, don't call a lead off a sign or anything like that. How do you keep working on that?
Goes back to the first question. We have to set expectations and paint a picture.
Right.
And I explained it to them and try to bring value really quick. And I go, hey man, how are you looking for houses? And they say, I'm looking online or I drive by them. I said, perfect. All right. If you said, John, don't even send it to me if it has this, if it doesn't have this.
Right.
I say, great. Well, look, man, now that I know what you want, let me give you an idea on something. Have you ever driven by a house? I just paint it all out. Have you ever driven by a house and called the agent? And if they say yes, I say, well, I couldn't tell you how many times people do that. But what they don't realize is, man, I can be your guide through this whole process. So I'm trying to be real kind. I can be your guide through the whole process and not have to worry about calling all those people because, man, I'd say probably most times the home is not going to have what you told me is an absolute must. So you don't actually have to cover for anything that I do. The seller contributes to that. So that's another little line. And then I say, I'll walk you through this. Let's start a text thread. And you drive by a house, away from home, away from work, whatever. And if you see something that you like, send it to me. Because I want to quickly check, does it have your must-haves? But I want to save you time, man, because have you ever noticed online some of those really good houses selling today? Well, what if I can tell you about if I knew about it 5 days ago? Well, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go and hunt. I'm of course looking at things that are on the market, but all I do is try to paint a picture to go, all right, I'm good. But if you tell them in a nice way, don't say the word commission, don't say the word pay. Say, hey, the seller contributes to what I do, so you don't owe me anything, and I can be your person for the whole process. But what ends up happening is I'll save you a lot of time. That's all I care about. And I'll bring value to you because maybe I like that something off market. And then I got to be on top of mine all the time. So yes, you're going to lose some, but the other strategy of showing them the one house when they're not ready until December is so that you can say that on the phone and you can do it one time in person. Where instead of going to a long lunch, you're going to Jimmy John's on the way back because you just got to go see one house with the guy. I'm not showing them 4 houses, for sure. But I'm trying to say the exact same thing I just said on the phone in person. But you have to paint a picture, and you got to have a really good tone and script where the guy just kind of slows down. Okay, I got it.
Okay, so how many years have you been?
13.
13 years. How much of your business is repeat business? Do you get a lot?
Yeah.
Repeat business. Yeah. So you found somebody you won with, okay? You helped them find a house, got it closed. What do you do to keep them as your client? Because on average, what a person stays in their house 4 to 5 years for them. Yeah. So what is your follow up once you've closed with them?
I try to reach out to them again in the same routine of a quick text, something valuable, something funny, whatever it may be, every 6 months, something like that. It's the easy ones are, hey man, I thought of you. I was just driving through so-and-so neighborhood. Man, how's everything going? That's the easiest step you can do. And I never want to talk about real estate much more than what I just said. Hey man, y'all thinking about buying or selling? I want them to bring it up. Hey man, I thought about you. Whatever and if I'm going funny, I'm going to think of some kind of funny thing that I wrote in my notes during the time where maybe, I don't know, we negotiated a porch swing that he was just all in about. And I'll say something like, man, I thought about you today. I saw this sick porch swing on another house I showed. And I was like, that's nothing like Bob's guy. You know, how's everything go? Whatever it may be. And then all I want to know is, hey, I know John. Let me see next party if my cousin wants to go look for a house. Yeah, y'all can call John. He's fun, or he's whatever. He's fun to work with. But every 6 months is a pretty good key. And then after the 6 month routine, as we get a little better in communication, if they on the third 6 month trial, I might move that to 3 months. It depends on the scenario.
And so you'll take a past client, you'll add them to your social media, Facebook, and so John does something pretty good. He does about 3 personal to 1 business, and that usually about posting on Facebook. So you add all your clients that you close, right? But you don't want it to be. You don't want your Facebook to be all business because then they pay it. Leaving them on, right? So that's where that 36 touch comes in as well, because you now add them to your database, and that's part of the follow-up too, right?
Yeah, and when you like, man, I did a good job with that group. We had so much fun. We hit it off. Nothing about like I was a good agent with it. It was just we had a good time. That dude's a cool dude, and you know, I'm probably going to put him on my little star on command where I might watch his social media feed, and if his son just graduated high school, I'm commenting. And if I ever make a post and he comments or a client comments, then they're going into the star. And they're going to take the time to send me a little private message or comment on something. I'm going to kind of make him a little more of an all-star where I'm going to be watching his social media a little bit more. So I still do my 6 month text, but man, we're talking about something cool that his kid did or whatever, because we hit it all.
Yeah. And if you don't have Boomtown, you can do the spreadsheet, but with Command, Command allows you to kind of do the same thing John was talking about, like Boomtown does. So you can add your lead in, you can put their phone number, their email address, you get all their information, put all your notes in, and you can set reminders in Command just like we do in Boomtown. Of course, y'all may know this or not, but you can put reminders to call, to text, email. You can even pre-write those texts, those emails, and actually set them up automated to where they automatically go out on that date. It takes a little more work up front, but then you don't have to do anything else but remind yourself, hey, check in, make sure, see if you've got replies. That's really all you have to do. They're making it as easy as possible for you.
Command would be a good software to use if you don't have anything.
Yeah.
That's because all it is an accountability partner that is a robot.
Right.
You know, you don't have to hire anybody, you just have that.
That's
And
right.
you walk in the door on a Thursday and you go, oh gosh, I got a to-do to send a text to Steve, who I spoke to 90 days ago. I kind of remember that call. All right, let's send the text, see what happens. So then you walk in the door and you have things to do from it. But
That's right. And so there was actually a class here. I don't know if y'all went to it. They were talking about Command, how to close 100 deals, 100 internet deals. You know that? That's pretty cool. And they talked all about, I think you can go on Keller Williams' website and actually see that entire class. They talk about, they do the same thing we do with Boomtown, but they do it through Command. And all it is a lead comes in, they reach out a minimum of 7 times, and it's call, text, email, call from a different number. If after 7, then they'll wait a little while, and then they'll try again. But they'll go in and they'll do these pre-written texts, pre-written emails, they'll schedule it and it'll automatically go out for you. So you really need to play with some of those things on command, and especially if you don't have Boomtown or if you don't really like looking at spreadsheets. So you've closed somebody that you've worked for 6 years.
It was a relationship. We did okay the first phone call. We hit it off the first meeting, which was a few months after, and then we just talked about life.
How long did it take you to figure out kind of how it works best for you?
I would say I got better each year after the first year, and I would learn different things. I have this little, I don't have it anymore, but I kind of do to a smaller level. I have a good and bad notebook. Hey man, what you do over the last year? That was a good script and a bad script. Learn from it and then tweak it each year. What went well, then I got a big response to. Then I sent an email to blind copied 50 clients and I got a good response. What was that? All right, I'm going to try that again next year. I'm just building from it. But these little things, the systems get better and better. I used to start off with all I did was an Excel sheet. And my notes got bigger and bigger, but there wasn't accountability. And then I found a way that you got a system with accountability, which is just a computerized system. And then it got a little better and better. So the good and bad is really simple thinking, but it works really well. And then a calendar on your own phone that holds you accountable, and all it does in about 40 days, it sends me a calendar reminder and say, John, evaluate yourself real quick. How you do? And I think, I sit back and I think for 10 minutes. It's like, where am I wasting my time? Where am I gaining my time? Let's focus on it. And you got to have your own system, but if you don't evaluate yourself, you're going to go, oh gosh, I went 6 months. And I did the same thing over and over. And the year later, oh, I forgot to send that email that went really well last year. You know what I mean? And so I got a couple things I do every year that were created 3 years ago that, 10 of them didn't work well, and now I got 3 or 4 that work. And that's good.
What year did you start seeing more like past clients really start reaching out to you and using you?
I think 3 years is where it goes to the 3 to 5 year rule, but when you can, and it took just the relationship thing, doing every 4 to 6 months after the sale is so key, because you may send them a text message or a phone call at the right time where they're going to a Christmas party the next day or the next month and they think of you, where you're getting a referral. And I was just trying to be fun. I want to be their guy. I think I was trying to say that every day. Man, I want to be your guy. Like just make those different. And we think of something fun. Like, I won't go into detail, but one of my favorite clients in Bowen right now, he was looking to invest in a property. And we're having fun. I said, dude, hop in the car. I do this all the time. I said, hop in the car with me. And I tried to find like what he likes. He loves baseball. And his business partner loves golf. I'm trying to find out how a way to do it. Trying to find a way to connect. And I found a way where I was like, hey man, what's your favorite, who's your favorite player? And we started talking about it. His business partner said, man, what's your favorite, what's your thing about golf? Anyway, we got into a connection and I said, well, what do y'all's LLC do? And they were like, I don't know. And we all connected and we had a good time. We invented the LLC right there in the car. And it was just cool to now my closing gift is going to be something cool related, because he's buying 3 or 4 properties. I'm going to try to find something where it's just a cool reminder. Hey, we invented that together as to, something fun. And so my goal, again, is to lead that conversation in closing where he's excited, it's buying his first investment property. He's going to tell people at work, man, hey, this is a good dude. He actually helped me create my LLC now, my name. And it was just something creative and whatever. So I threw out a few ideas. Hey, what about this? What about that? And they hit, and I was the guy that invented their LLC. Nothing fancy about what I did. I just wanted to think about it. I was like, man, if me and Jonathan were creating an LLC, we could think of it, and John was throwing us ideas, good or bad, that's kind of cool. And what if that would click? I'm going to remember that forever. So it goes back to, yes, it gets better and better every year, but you go to the goods and the bads, and you try to think not just, I'm going to sell this guy a house. I want to think about how did I become different? And whatever.
And it's easier when you're first starting out because your first year you only close 10 to 15. It's easier to keep up with those clients. As long as you've been doing it, as many clients as you've had, how do you organize keeping up with that many people?
It takes some prep work, but I try to find different times of the year when they're slow, and I really slow down. Like Fuller just said about the command, it'll take you some systems, but I think when I first started coming in, the most impressive person I met was Jeremy Dobbs, and he's a very systematic person. I was like, man, he's not working many hours, but he's got systems. So I was like, all right, I'm going to try to learn that. I didn't learn his systems, but he was just a systematic person, and he was trying to explain the same thing. So I was like, all right, if I slow down and I spend, I don't know, a full day where all I'm doing is figuring out, here's 100 people, what's their next to do? Well, every single person that we either have sold a property to or showing houses to has a to do, then you're there. I don't forget about this guy or this guy. I just walk in the door and I got 40 things to do.
And it keeps you from having to remember everyone's name, the details about everybody. It's just you come in and that's your to-do list for the day, right?
Well, yeah, and so when you save their number, and for me, the word prospect afterwards, or maybe something related to what they bought, like after they close, I might say, Jonathan Fuller, River Chase. I get a phone call 2 years from now, and it says, Jonathan Fuller, River Chase. I go straight and I put my AirPods in and I go to my resource and I read really fast. His daughter graduates from Northridge High School in 2022, and I go straight into it. And I go, dude, what's Rachel up to? Did she decide where she's going to go to school next year? And he goes, you remember Rachel? Whatever, I didn't know who Rachel was at the moment, but I remember Jonathan Fuller, River Chase, went to my notes really fast, and then it might kick into gear in a second. Oh, I remember there with River Chase, we saw this house. Oh yeah, I remember this group. But it's just a relationship thing. But to me, my brain's everywhere sometimes, and I got to go Jonathan Fuller, River Chase, or Jonathan Fuller, Prospect. When I get that phone, I'm going to answer, Jonathan, what's up, man? And then I go on and I look really quick. But I just want, to be consistent.
Y'all have any questions? They're all
Maybe you mute them?
Yeah, they can unmute.
Oh, can? Oh, okay.
You can unmute yourself if you have a question.
That's what you explain
Do y'all have any?
No, but one of the things when you said you had a 6-year plan, my very first day in real estate, my very first time, I moved to I got at 8:05, somebody got on the website, and I called them. I'm good at talking to people. And I know y'all know this, and everybody's got to know, you got to be okay with people saying no, or I'm not interested, because that happens all the time. But anyway, I get on the call, and we talk for 45 minutes. And he told me right off the bat, hey, I'm 35 years, I live in Florence, but we're going to retire to Tuscaloosa, big out what I'm playing. And this is my 4th year in real estate. I still talk to him probably once a month because he calls me. And he's gonna move. He's down here every game. When me and Kim was in Atlanta, they loved that. Like we met him and his friends. He's got friends that all own places here. So not only do I know him, but now I know all of his friends. And every time we're at a game, I try to meet up with him because he knows everybody. And but this is my 4th year. He's gonna buy something. He's just not ready. He's waiting for his wife to retire. She's a teacher, and they're moving down here. So it may be 5 years in. But
That's,
he's just
that's
there.
that's really cool.
Absolutely.
I know that especially if you're first starting, open houses are great spots to get new clients. If you're not getting online leads, open houses. I mean, that's how Alice built her business. Trisha did one every weekend. I think her first 5 years or something like that. It was crazy. But you can go in and you can get their information when they come in. They may not be looking to buy the house, but clearly they're looking to buy something better than just a nosy neighbor, right? But even the nosy neighbor is going to sell in the next 3 to 5 years. So those are all prospects. And I know when I first got started and I was on my own, I had my little spreadsheet. That's the only way I got people outside of my database was open houses. And it just had their name, phone number, email, quick notes. And I just made sure once every other week or so, I would just reach out to them. And my first house sale was somebody I met at my very first open house. And it was about a year. It was actually right after I joined the Grey Group. It had been about a year in real estate doing it part-time. And I think it was the first week I was with the Grey Group. I saw a house pop up and I still had that spreadsheet. And that was my first sale. And I remember how exciting it was. And then when we saw this whole Boomtown system and all that, I was like, so much easier. And now that we've got land, it's even easier than that.
I think that's probably the best. How to take that is probably the best, which you explained, but not, throughout the conversation. I think a lot of people go, especially new rates, go to an open house and they'll talk to people, and the notes they're going to take are Riverdale 3-2, 1,800 square feet or more. They don't, that's what they write associated with that name and phone number, so they don't have anything to talk about until 1,800 square foot 3-2 Riverdale comes up. And it really makes having a conversation hard. Because that's what I did, like the first year I was in real estate, I wrote down, what do you want? And the house doesn't matter. It's just remember, like, the area matters, but I can remember that without getting have it written down when you only have 5 clients. But I can't remember anything else about it. These people.
Yeah. My favorite strategy on an open house, and this is not my idea by any means, but how do I become valuable to someone is all it comes down to. Because I'm a customer. This might be my 3rd open house to come to of the day. I either like your house or don't, and whatever. So I tried this, and it's a simple thought. But I was at an open house, and there's a new family. He got a job for like Pico. Is it called Pico? Pico. And I didn't talk about real estate one time. Then I went straight to their kids. Their kid was this tall. And I said, I played with them for a minute. And I said, man, y'all are new to town. So what do your kids love to do? Y'all go look at the house. I said, whatever. And I started playing with the kids. And I asked them, what's your favorite sport? What do you love to do? And I found out their son loves wrestling. He was middle school, and their daughter loves soccer. And they came back, I took them to the house, John, we kind of hate it. We hate this house. I said, no. And I said, but I'll tell you what, I learned that your daughter loves soccer, and your son is wrestling. Have y'all had any luck figuring out how to get connected? And I said, wrestling's pretty tough. We hadn't really picked it up in Tuscaloosa. Yeah. And soccer is really big in Birmingham. And they go, we don't know anything. And I said, look, I get it. Moving to town is new. It's a big move. What if I could help find you those connections? And they were all in. And I left the meeting, and I called 2 or 3 buddies that I knew were going to help me get the answer. I got the answers. I got them connected. And sure enough, they left with hey, I love to go to my house, so we want to use you to help us. Anyway, it was valuable outside of buying a house. And the whole strategy was, y'all go look at the house. I'll catch y'all with y'all on that. Hey, look, I get it. Kids are everywhere. Why don't I just watch that? Y'all go upstairs. And I'm asking a 15-year-old and a 6-year-old what their life is about. And I started painting a picture. So you get the idea, but you come back and you go valuable. So yeah, there's things you can say, but I 100% was the 1,800 square feet, Riverdale, 3-2 for a long time. But then it came down to the other way, and it was just different.
You know, it sucks when we don't have anything to call us. There's nothing to call up with, especially right now, there's definitely nothing to call. Because there's 1,800 square foot, 3-2, whatever, coming up anywhere.
Sure.
You know, so there's no, it's not like we're calling about, hey, something every twice a week, something also needs to on the market.
And one of the things that I, which everybody says that in real estate, if you don't tell people what you do, or if they don't know what you do, they're never going to call you. I sold 2 houses sitting at phone numbers. When I go to a restaurant, I've traveled for 13 years, so I was by myself. I always sit at the bar, but I always sit at the bar no matter where I go. So 2 houses sitting at phone numbers. But when I'm talking to John or Blaine, when they're sitting beside me, I never bring up on the real estate, but I will always say, hey, what do you do for a living? After we get to talking.
What you
Because
ask
when they
them.
ask me, then they'll ask you. And then I said, hey, man, you know, especially some of these places, Hunt, a lot of these construction guys, hey, they're coming here for a short period of time, thinking about moving to Tuscaloosa. And then I'll say, hey, this is my business card. If you need anything, whether it's real estate or not, call. Right? Well, if you just want to get a beer, like I'm open to getting a beer with you. So, but yeah, I sold 2 houses, or had 2 buyers from Baumeister Leads. So that's another thing.
People like to talk about themselves. One thing I do hear John say, I mean, every single week, we're getting sign calls and stuff we get. A lot of times, all they want to do, they just want to know what the price is, you know, jump off the phone.
Yep.
But John keeps them on the phone, that he asks them a simple question. He just says, hey, so, you know, what do you like about us? Then he goes, so where are you at now? People love to talk about themselves. So while I'm reading over it, oh, okay, John managed property, so he usually goes into it. Next thing you know, it was going to be a quick phone call for the price. You just got to keep him on the phone, and next thing you know, you're winning with them. People love to talk about themselves. Just let them. Ask them the right questions, and they'll let you.
It goes back to I really encourage everybody to do good and bad notebook, because I had some really bad scripts, and then a good one popped up. I went, wow, threw that out there. Yeah, and I just write it down. Like my favorite script, when you were saying, what do you do when somebody says I'm 3 to 5 years out? I go, dude, you're just like me. You wouldn't believe. Gosh, I just went through that myself. I think my wife's Pinterest account tripled. And when I told her, I said, we aren't even but 2 years out from buying a house. So look, I get it. You're just it's kind of fun to look. So look, I don't know, if you did move, where would you move to? And then we kind of go into it there. I go, man, I help people all the time. I just helped somebody that we had the same conversation. We probably bought a house. Look, I'm not the guy that's going to call you every week. You just told me you're not living for 3 years. But I will tell you, man, we can put a game plan together. I'd love to be your guy. And here's how it would look. And then then they kind of breathe a little bit usually. I got a shot, whether I win or not. But usually when somebody says I'm a year out, I say, well, if you're anything like my wife, her Pinterest account has just tripled. And we're not even a year away from mine. And they usually say, okay, yeah, me too. We got all kinds of things.
Yeah, I think for me, being relatively new, it's great to hear you guys talk about the relationship. I think, you know, when I first started, it was just, I got to talk to somebody. I got to get a lead. I got to do this. I got to get something going. And now that I've done a little bit, it's like, it is more about the relationship building than it is just getting to the deal and closing. It's a life, you know, event that you want to be a part of and that you want to help somebody. If you can convey that in a genuine way, then you know they're going to buy into you a lot quicker. You know, so I really appreciate, the talk about the relationship.
Yeah, I can think of, like, the most fun about our job is a lot of things is they need a home.
Yep.
And then you build a relationship I built a relationship with Jonathan because he needs a home. We have such a good time. 3 years from now, he's buying investment properties just because he's like, I don't know my guy that helps me with stocks that much. I'd rather just spend that money with you, man. Let's do it. And it's those relationships, that trust, and the fun part of it. Let's enjoy it through the whole thing.
I've got one question for especially the younger people that might be on the call. When you're 20, 21, 22 years old, and a client calls you, especially like when you first got started doing, how did you, I'm trying to say this, how did you keep them connected when you see somebody young, they may not have the value that you have, or they may not have the experience. I mean, they may have not sold a house yet. So how did you keep that, to keep that relationship going?
Well, I would
That's
probably
a tough one.
No.
Young agents.
Go ahead.
You gotta get creative, especially right now with the market the way that it is. I mean, we were used to having like 1,000 units on the market, now we're at 400. So one way we've been able to do it, it doesn't matter. We got Hampton on our team, who's super young. He comes in, he's confident, he's very personable, right? But we show value by saying, hey, we sell a lot of properties off market. And it's just really showing that you're willing to get out there and work and put forth that effort. Because if they want to be in River Chase, there's nothing for sale in River Chase. There's like, hey, I'm gonna reach out, I'm gonna call everybody that lives in River Chase and try to find you that house. What size so I can narrow it down? Like just showing that effort. Hampton does a great job because he's confident and he's very personal.
I think the whole thing, I go back to painting a picture and setting expectations of what it's going to look like and what you're going to do for that person. Then they kind of go, ooh, all right, that's a lot of effort. For me not to buy a house for you, I've got to feel that if you're going to do all that. So it's kind of like, all right, so hey man, here's what I'm going to do. Dude, I'm pumped. We got an idea of what you want. You told me, and I love to summarize. One of the best things that you can do is summarize before you really get to that little gut-punching little moment.
Right.
So I kind of go, all right, man, so hey, you want this. You say, John, don't even show me this house unless it has this. Now we got a game plan. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go through, gosh, let me think. I'm going to go through and call some really key people. I don't say realtors. Key people that I think that might either sell their house or have a house. And then I'll probably go in and maybe send some letters out, do some things. And I'm in. I'd love to be your guide through the process. How does that sound? So I summarized, what I was going to do, and showed a ton of efforts. And then they go, all right, we'll give you a shot. And I got a chance. So not every one of us is some magical thing you say, and they're like, okay, all right, let's do it. But if they see the effort, if I'm 15 years old or however old I'm going to go, man, I would feel bad if I didn't buy a house after he's going to do all that. That'd be my strategy. But it's good to summarize before you say your kind of tough question to ask, because it's just easier. So they can go, yep, I want that in the house, that in the house, that in the house, that in the house. All right, so it sounds like our next step is this. And then they can go, okay, whatever that scenario is.
One of the things that, like, when you're asking for a house, one of the things that Kim kind of taught me, because I'm not a woman, but she says, hey, you're talking to the guy, what is your wife do? And one of the things is, that when you're talking about the shower, does the shower have a bench? I didn't know that was important to women, but it is, because you put your leg on it to shave your legs. So, hey, does that house have a bench? So I didn't know that, but that's a good question to ask the husband. Hey, did your wife ever thought about this?
Yeah.
And so,
That's
just things outside of, like, I don't care if it has to be cheated or not, but I didn't know that was important, but it is, so, just asking questions that they don't think of themselves.
Yeah, like, hey, one of my favorite, I'm talking to you as a buyer, one of my favorite things working with a buyer that's buying their second home is you kind of figured out what you need now because you don't have it. You don't what you don't.
Absolutely.
Dude, you wouldn't believe how many times, I'm talking like this, you wouldn't believe how many times they're like, don't show me a house that has what I got there. That's right. And it's a house that has no backyard. We have 3 dogs, they all live in there, you know, whatever it may be. And then they usually gauge it from there. But that's a really good angle to say, you know, not just what that one person wants.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good point. No, I've been showing a couple of friends of mine houses for a long time. I showed them one. I was like, this is a perfect house. It was North River. It was on the course. It was close to the clubhouse. It was off market. I was like, this is it. And I even told them, I was like, guys, we gotta go to that. So we went over to that day. We were looking through it. You know, I'm walking around with Connor, their little son. Me and him, like, they're wanting to do the thing and talk. And they're talking numbers. So me and Connor always play around. That's one of my best friends from high school. Right. And so we're just walking around. They get done. I'm like, it's great. And they're like, they look at each other. And long story short, they didn't buy, and here we are nearly a year later. They still talk about the house. Turns out they didn't talk to each other. There, they didn't want to show how excited they were, but he really loved the house, but he wasn't showing signs to her. She really loved the house, wasn't showing signs to him, but because they weren't showing it to each other, they weren't communicating. They didn't buy the house, and they still talk about the house. And now every time we go, he goes, "Babe, what do you think?" So you really do have to ask each one individually instead of asking three. Like, what do you think? Because we don't know how their communication skills are. They both had a lot going on at the time, and with work and everything else. And yeah, man, that's a good point. Does anybody have any questions? Thanks, Joe.